What if your independence made people uncomfortable? What really happens when you stop being easy to control? And why do some people turn toxic the moment you stop playing by their rules? Let's uncover the uncomfortable truth through the lens of timeless Stoic philosophy. Welcome to Stoic Bridge, the bridge between ancient wisdom and modern life, guiding you through life's storms with calm and resilience. Have you ever noticed how certain people change the moment you start setting boundaries? When you stop being agreeable, when you say no without guilt, or when you choose your path instead of theirs, they don't applaud your growth. They resist it. But it doesn't stop there. What truly happens when people realize they can't control you anymore? They don't just leave you alone. They evolve into manipulators. Suddenly, they twist your words. They spread subtle rumors. They guilt trip you for making your own choices. They label your confidence as arrogance and your independence as selfishness. This is more than just difficult behavior. It's psychological warfare. And it's often invisible until you know exactly what to look for. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true strength is not found in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. It's about detaching from the need for approval and standing firm in your values, even when others push back. But here's the question. Are you truly in control of yourself? Or are you still dancing to the tune of those trying to shape your behavior? Stick with me, because in this video, we're going to expose the quiet tactics people use when they can't manipulate you anymore, and how to stand strong through every one of them, especially the final tactic, which is the most dangerous of all. To bring this lesson to life, let me tell you the story of Adam. Adam was a man of quiet strength. He didn't demand control over others, but he refused to be controlled himself. At work, he couldn't be intimidated. Among friends, he didn't bow to pressure. In family, he enforced clear boundaries. Naturally, this unsettled people. Where Adam expected respect, he received resentment. Friends called him distant. Colleagues whispered behind his back. Even loved ones began questioning his character. Confused, Adam sought guidance from his mentor, Mr. Durrance Carter, a wise and retired businessman. Mr. Carter didn't offer abstract philosophy, he offered a visual metaphor. He led Adam to his backyard where two horses stood, one tied, one free. The tied horse was calm, the free one kept its distance, alert and wary. "See," said Mr. Carter, "the horse you can control makes you feel secure. But the one you can't? That's the one that makes people nervous. When people can't predict you, they fear you. Not because you're wrong, but because your freedom reminds them of their own lack of it." That night, Adam had a realization. People weren't turning against him because he was selfish or arrogant. They were reacting to his freedom because they couldn't control it. And in that clarity, Adam made a decision. He stopped explaining himself. He stopped seeking validation. He stopped letting guilt write his story. In the silence that followed, something powerful happened. The manipulators drifted away. The insecure disappeared, and only the strong remained, those who respected his autonomy. So if you've ever felt punished just for being true to yourself, this video is for you. You'll learn to spot these toxic patterns. You'll discover how Stoic wisdom helps you rise above them, and most importantly, you'll reclaim your freedom without apology. Before we begin, if you find value in these lessons, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay connected. Let's dive in and expose what people really do when they can no longer control you. Number 1, they try to manipulate you. Building on what we discussed earlier, where we explored how people attempt to control you, let's dive deeper into what happens when they realize their direct tactics don't work. That's when manipulation comes into play. Some people crave control. They want to dictate your every move, influence your decisions and shape your behavior according to their needs. But when they see that you're not easily swayed, that you're independent, they don't just give up. No, they switch strategies. Instead of using overt control, they become subtle manipulators, playing with your emotions, trying to make you feel guilty, obligated, or even pressured into doing what they want. Here's the harsh truth. When someone can't control you outright, they'll attempt to influence you in more covert ways. They might guilt trip you. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? Or they might use flattery. You're amazing at this. I don't know what I'd do without you. And if that doesn't work, they create a sense of urgency or even play the victim, anything to make you feel responsible for their emotional state. It's never about genuine respect. It's all about keeping you under their influence without being obvious about it. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes incredibly powerful. As Lao Tzu once said, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." True power doesn't lie in manipulating others, it lies in self-mastery. It's about having the control over your own reactions, emotions, and decisions. Manipulators thrive on your emotional responses: guilt, doubt, and fear. But the moment you spot their tactics and refuse to engage, you strip away their power. Think of it as a game of chess. Manipulation is like a strategic move. Every action they take is meant to provoke a reaction from you. They set traps, hoping you'll panic and make a move they can exploit. But what happens if you don't react? What happens if you stay calm, observe, and refuse to fall into their trap? They lose. The best way to defeat manipulation isn't to engage in a battle. It's to stop playing their game altogether. I remember dealing with someone who had a knack for twisting situations in their favor. One day, they asked me for a favor, something that made me uncomfortable. I politely declined, but instead of accepting my answer, they sighed dramatically and said, "Wow, I thought we were closer than that." I could feel it, the guilt creeping in, the urge to explain myself. But I paused. Instead of justifying my decision, I simply smiled and said, "I know what you're doing." That single sentence changed everything. Their face changed. They knew they had been caught. They stammered, tried to laugh it off, but I didn't budge. That was the last time they attempted to manipulate me. And that's the key. Once you recognize manipulation for what it is, it loses its power over you. So how do you handle people like this? First, recognize their tactics. If someone is trying to guilt trip you or make you feel pressured, stop and ask yourself, is this a genuine request or is this manipulation? Second, stay calm and firm. The more neutral your response, the less control they have over you. Finally, simply refuse to play the game. You don't have to defend yourself, argue, or justify anything. Just say no and move on. At the end of the day, manipulation only works when you react to it. The moment you stop engaging, stop explaining, and stop feeling someone else's emotions, they lose control over you. And master yourself, hold your ground, and remember, your choices are yours alone. As we continue, let's move on to the next strategy people use when they realize they can't manipulate you. Let's dive into how they might resort to guilt or other emotional tricks. Keep watching. Number 2, they spread lies about you. Continuing from where we left off, after they can't manipulate you, the next tactic people often resort to is spreading lies. Let's dive into one of the most destructive strategies used by those who can't control you. They spread false narratives. Instead of confronting you directly, they twist the truth, fabricate stories, and try to turn others against you. Why do they do this? Because they know they can't control you through manipulation, so they target your reputation instead. It's no longer about truth, it's about trying to regain control by attacking your character. Here's the hard truth. False narratives are the weapon of the weak. When people don't have facts on their side, they turn to gossip, exaggeration, and outright lies. They want you to react, to defend yourself, to get emotional. Because once you do, they win. They've pulled you into their game. But let's look at it from a different perspective. Real power is found in not reacting. Think of it like this. Imagine someone throwing mud at you. If you try to fight back, all you'll accomplish is getting dirtier. But if you remain still, let the mud dry, and calmly dust yourself off, you walk away clean. That's how false narratives work. The more you try to fight them, the more you spread the mess. But if you stand firm, stay true to who you are, and refuse to engage, the lies will eventually fade on their own. This is where Stoic wisdom really shines. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are unaffected by what is said, you have already won." Think about it for a moment. When you stop caring about what others say, you take away their power. Because truth doesn't need defending, it stands on its own. I remember a time when someone spread deliberate false rumors about me. At first, my instinct was to defend myself, to correct every single lie. But then I paused. Instead of reacting, I chose to focus on being exactly who I am. I let my actions speak for the truth. And do you know what happened? The lies started to lose their grip. The more I ignored them, the clearer the truth became, and eventually the person spreading the lies exposed themselves. Lies, as we all know, have a short lifespan. They fade quickly, while the truth lasts forever. So, how do you deal with people who resort to these tactics? First, don't engage. The moment you argue or try to correct them, you give their lies power. Second, let your character do the talking. Truth doesn't need defending, it reveals itself over time. And finally, remember this. People who spread lies only expose more about themselves than they do about you. At the end of the day, false words hold no weight unless you give them attention. So stand firm, stay silent, and watch as the truth rises to the surface, because those who rely on lies always lose in the end. And now that we've tackled this, let's move on to the next manipulation tactic people often turn to when they can't get their way. Stay with me, and let's uncover the next strategy. Number 3. They play the victim. Continuing from where we left off, let's dive into one of the most manipulative tactics people use when they can't control you: playing the victim. Instead of owning up to their actions, they flip the script, portray themselves as the wronged party, and seek sympathy from others. Why do they do this? Because if they can't control you directly, they try to control how others perceive you. Here's the truth. Playing the victim isn't about seeking justice. It's about avoiding accountability. These people twist the facts, exaggerate situations, and portray themselves as helpless, all in an attempt to gain support and validation. And here's the kicker. The more you try to explain or defend yourself, the worse it gets. Suddenly, you look like the aggressor, and they get to sit back, basking in the sympathy of everyone around them. Imagine someone giving an Oscar-worthy performance, acting as the innocent victim while painting you as the villain. Now, if you step onto the stage and argue, you become a part of the act. But if you refuse to play along, the audience will eventually see through the performance. People who fake victimhood rely on your reactions, don't give them the satisfaction. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes into play. Epictetus once said, "A wise man does not allow others to dictate his emotions." That's the real power, emotion control. The moment you let their performance get to you, they win. But if you stay calm, detached, and allow time to reveal the truth, you take away their power. I remember dealing with someone who would always play the victim whenever they were confronted. One day, after they repeatedly crossed a boundary, I finally stood up for myself. Instead of taking responsibility, they acted shocked and told others that I had attacked them. Suddenly, I was the bad guy. At first, I wanted to defend myself, to clarify the situation, but then I stopped. I chose to let my actions speak for themselves. I didn't argue, didn't explain, didn't get drawn into their drama. And you know what happened? People began to see the truth on their own. No matter how much someone plays the victim, lies always unravel and true character shines through in the end. So, how do you handle people like this? First, don't engage. Arguing with them only makes you appear guilty in their fabricated story. Second, let their actions expose them. The more they lie, the clearer it becomes. And finally, protect your energy. You don't need to prove anything. The truth has a way of surfacing on its own. At the end of the day, manipulators use victimhood as a weapon, but only if you give them an audience. The best response? Stay calm, stay quiet, and let reality do the talking. Because in the end, the truth always outlasts the performance. If you found this valuable, be sure to hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Now, let's move on to the next manipulation tactic and discover how it can show up in your life. Number 4, they try to isolate you. Continuing from where we left off, let's now talk about one of the most calculated tactics people use when they realize they can't control you: isolation. Instead of confronting you directly, they go behind your back, spreading doubts, twisting stories, and turning your friends, colleagues, or even family against you. Why? Because they fear your independence. If you have strong relationships and support, they can't manipulate you. So their goal becomes clear: cut you off and make you feel alone. Here's the truth: isolation is a tactic of the weak. People who thrive on control can't stand when you think for yourself. So they spread rumors, create divisions, and subtly influence those around you. Their aim is to make you doubt who you can trust, question your worth, and ultimately become dependent on them. The more isolated you feel, the easier you are to control. Think of it like a wolf pack in the wild. Predators isolate their target from the pack before they strike. Why? Because a lone prey is much easier to take down. Manipulators do the same thing. They don't attack when you're surrounded by strong allies. Instead, they create conflict, sow tension, and engineer misunderstandings to pull you away from those who support you. But once you recognize this tactic, you can outsmart them. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Seneca once said, "Associate only with those who improve you. Avoid those who would pull you down." That's the key. Surround yourself with people who strengthen you, not those who divide and manipulate. True friends and allies will see through the lies over time, and those who turn against you, they were never meant to stay in your life. I remember a time when someone tried to slowly turn people against me. It started off small, subtle comments like, "I don't know if you can really trust them." Then came the exaggerations, the distortions of my words. At first I felt frustrated, tempted to confront them. But then I realized the more I fought back, the more power I gave them. So instead of engaging, I focused on strengthening the real relationships I had. I stayed consistent in my actions, letting my character speak louder than their words. And you know what happened? Over time, people began to see the truth for themselves. The ones who mattered stuck around, and the ones who believed the lies, they were never my true friends to begin with. So how do you handle people who try to isolate you? First, stay calm. The more you react, the more fuel you give them. Second, nurture your real connections. The people who truly know you won't be fooled for long. And finally, don't those who turn away. If someone is easily swayed against you, let them go. At the end of the day, those who fear your independence will try to isolate you, but they can't break what's unshaken. Stay strong, stay connected, and remember, real relationships don't fall apart because of someone else's lies. And now that we've tackled this, let's move on to the next tactic manipulators use when they realize they can't control you. Stay tuned for the next insight. Number 5, they challenge your confidence. Building on what we've discussed so far, let's now explore a subtle but incredibly dangerous tactic people use when they realize they can't control you. They challenge your confidence. Instead of confronting you directly, they won't attack you outright. Instead, they plant seeds of doubt. They'll question your decisions, make you second-guess yourself, and subtly undermine your abilities. Why? Because if they can make you doubt yourself, they regain power over you. Here's the truth. People who question your confidence aren't offering helpful advice or constructive criticism. They're testing your self-belief. They want you to hesitate, to seek their approval, to feel uncertain about your choices. Because the more unsure you are, the easier it becomes for them to influence you. Think of it like walking across a shaky bridge. Imagine you're confidently crossing a bridge that looks solid. But then someone nearby keeps saying, "Are you sure that bridge can hold you? What if it collapses?" At first you feel confident, but the more they talk, the more you start questioning yourself. Not because the bridge is weak, but because their words made you doubt it. That's exactly how confidence works. Your judgment is strong, but manipulators know how to shake it on purpose. The trick is recognizing what they're doing and continuing on your path without hesitation. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus once said, "A person's worth is not determined by external approval. True confidence doesn't come from others agreeing with you. It comes from trusting yourself. The moment you stop seeking validation and stand firm in your decisions, you become unshakable." I remember a time when someone constantly questioned every choice I made. No matter what decision I took, they'd raise an eyebrow and ask, "Are you sure? That seems risky." At first, I tried to explain myself, to justify my choices, thinking I needed to prove I was right. But then I realized they weren't questioning me because they knew better. They were doing it to make me doubt myself. So one day I stopped explaining. I simply said, "Yes, I'm sure." No justification, no debate. And you know what? They had nothing left to say, because confidence doesn't need to argue, it just stands firm. So how do you handle people like this? First, trust yourself. If you made a decision based on reason and experience, don't let anyone's doubt shake you. Second, stop over-explaining. The more you justify yourself, the more they'll poke holes in your confidence. And finally, remember, doubt is their tool, not your truth. Just because someone questions you doesn't mean you're wrong. At the end of the day, your confidence is your power. People will challenge it, test it, and try to weaken it. But only if you let them. Stand firm, trust yourself, and never let anyone else's doubts become your own. Now that we've covered this tactic, let's dive into the next manipulation strategy people use when they realize they can't control you. Stay tuned for more insights. Number 6, they provoke you emotionally. Continuing from where we left off, let's talk about one of the oldest tricks in the book, emotionally provoking you. When someone realizes they can't control you through logic or manipulation, they resort to pushing your buttons. They say things designed to frustrate, insult, or enrage you, not because they care about the argument, but because they want you to lose control. Once you react emotionally, they win. Here's the truth. They want you to get angry so they can claim the moral high ground. They'll make mocking remarks, belittle you, or twist your words just to get a reaction. The moment you snap, they'll turn around and say, "See, I told you they were unreasonable." Suddenly, you're the bad guy, and they walk away playing the victim. Think of it like fire and wind. Imagine your emotions as a flame, and they are the wind. The more you react, the bigger the fire gets. But what happens when you stop feeding it? The fire dies out. That's why staying calm is your most powerful weapon. If they can't make you explode, they lose their leverage and are left powerless. This is where Stoic wisdom really comes into play. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That's the secret, refusing to react in the way they expect. When you remain calm in the face of provocation, you rob them of their power. You stay in control and they walk away frustrated, not victorious. I remember a time when someone tried to bait me into an argument. They threw insults, exaggerated things, and even brought up past mistakes just to get me emotional. I could feel the anger rising, but instead of reacting, I simply smiled and said, "Interesting perspective." Nothing more. No explanation, no defense. And you know what happened? They froze. They didn't know what to do because they were expecting me to explode. That moment taught me something valuable. Staying calm isn't weakness, it's power. So, how do you handle people like this? First, recognize the game. If someone is deliberately trying to provoke you, pause and ask yourself, do they actually want a conversation or are they just hoping I'll react? Second, control your response. If you feel your emotions rising, take a deep breath before speaking. And finally, walk away from unnecessary battles. Not every argument is worth your energy, and some fights are won simply by refusing to engage. At the end of the day, your emotions belong to you. If someone tries to provoke you, stay calm, stay detached, and let them burn themselves out. Because in the end, the strongest person in the room is always the one who refuses to be controlled. If you've made it this far, leave a comment with a "thank God" and give it a like if you found this video valuable. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating more content for you. Let's continue learning and growing together. Thank you. Number 7, they copy you. Building on what we've discussed, let's now explore a tactic that's both frustrating and revealing: when people start copying you. At first, it might seem like a coincidence. You make a bold move and they suddenly do something similar. You introduce a new idea and they act like they thought of it first. Then the truth hits you. They're not competing with you anymore. They're imitating you. Here's the reality. If they can't defeat you, they'll try to become you. Instead of forging their own path, they mimic yours, hoping to absorb your success without doing the work themselves. But here's the catch. No matter how much they copy, they'll always be a step behind. Imitation might fool people for a while, but it can never replace originality. Think of it like a shadow versus the sun. A shadow moves when the light moves, but it can never create its own glow. That's what copying is. A lifeless imitation of something real. No matter how much they try to act like you, they can never replace the essence that makes you unique. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes powerful. Seneca once said, "Character, not imitation, defines a person." Your true value isn't defined by what you do. It's defined by who you are. Someone can copy your words, your style, even your ideas, but they can never copy your mind, your experience, or your authenticity. I remember someone who seemed to copy almost everything I did. Every time I made progress, they followed the same steps. If I took on a new challenge, they'd suddenly be interested in the same thing. At first, it was frustrating. I felt like my work was being stolen. But then it clicked. The more they copied, the more obvious it became that they had nothing of their own. One day I decided to switch things up completely, to change my approach. And guess what? They had no idea what to do. Because when you're always following, you're never leading. That's when I learned imitation is just proof that you're ahead. So, how do you handle people like this? First, stop worrying about them. The fact that they're copying means they're already behind. Second, keep evolving. The more you grow, the harder it becomes for them to keep up. And finally, remember that imitation isn't flattery. It's a sign of insecurity. They copy because they lack the confidence to be themselves. At the end of the day, copies fade, but originality lasts forever. Keep being yourself, keep leading, and let the imitators struggle to keep up, because no one can replace what makes you unique. Now that we've covered this tactic, let's move on to the next strategy people use when they realize they can't control you. Stay tuned for more insights. Number 8, they wait for you to fail. Continuing from where we left off, we now face a harsh reality. Some people don't genuinely support you. They just pretend to. They'll smile in your face, nod at your ambitions, and even say, "I'm happy for you." But deep down, they're not hoping for your success. No, they're waiting, not for you to rise, but for you to fall. Because your success challenges them, and if they can't beat you, they'd rather see you lose. Here's the truth. Some people aren't cheering for you. They're keeping score. They don't clap because they believe in you. They clap because they're eagerly waiting for the moment you stumble. And when that happens, they'll be the first to whisper, "I knew it." But here's where they fail. Real success doesn't depend on their approval. Think of it like a tree standing against a storm. A weak tree might bend under strong winds, but a deeply rooted tree stands firm, no matter how fierce the storm rages. The people hoping for your failure are like the wind. They make noise, they push against you, but they can't break you unless you let them. The stronger your foundation, the less their opinions matter. This is where Stoic wisdom comes into play. Epictetus once said, "Do not waste energy on those who hope for your downfall. Your focus should be on growth, not proving people wrong." That's the key. Success isn't about proving anything to them. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. I remember a time when someone in my life acted like they were supportive, but would drop subtle comments like, "Are you sure this will work?" Or, "I hope you make it, but let's see." At first, I brushed it off, thinking nothing of it. But over time, I realized they weren't truly rooting for me. They were waiting for me to mess up. And sure enough, when I faced a setback, they were the first to remind me, "See, I told you it wasn't going to be easy." That's when it hit me. They never believed in me. They were simply waiting for the moment to confirm their doubts. So I stopped explaining myself, stopped seeking validation, and instead I focused on my journey. The result? I succeeded, and their silence spoke louder than any fake support ever could. So how do you handle people like this? First, recognize the signs. If someone only appears when you struggle, but vanishes when you win, that's a red flag. Second, stop wasting energy trying to prove yourself. Your success is for you, not for them. And finally, let your success be your answer. Keep moving forward, keep evolving, because nothing bothers them more than watching you rise when they swore you'd fall. At the end of the day, some people wait for your failure like it's entertainment. Don't give them that satisfaction. Succeed anyway. Blast off. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, share, pride track, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with future content. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating and sharing insights. Thank you and keep rising, no matter who's watching.